about risk awareness, how to drive, how to be safe, what you need to do to be safe. If you don't know, I'm a state certified driving instructor. I teach teens and adults. So let's go ahead and get it. Why should you be concerned when you're learning how to drive? Number one, risk is the chance of death, injury, damage, or loss of life. We want all drivers to be safe. When I teach my students, whether they're teens or adults, or people in their 20s, 30s, or 40s who are going for a reeval, I try to explain the risk to them so they can be safe. So this can be very helpful no matter where you are in the driving process. Approximately 111 drivers uh, will be involved in some type of serious crash. So it's really important that you practice defensive driving fundamentals. Defensive driving fundamentals are as simple as keeping space between you and other vehicles, reducing distractions in the car. Let's talk about identifying possible errors and inexperience, or maybe you haven't been driving for 3 or 4 years. When you drive, you get into a routine. This routine is simply driving, being aware of your surroundings, having good speed management, having good space management. It's extremely important that you develop a good visual search pattern where you're looking left, right, left. Practice defensive driving fundamentals that will keep you safe. For every 2 miles driven, the risk of a crash does increase. You make 200 observations, you make 40 decisions, and one mistake. One mistake could be you merging on the expressway, you forget to look over your shoulder, you cut off a car. Another mistake could be you are driving, the light has been yellow, it's a stale green light, and it changes really quick. Do you make a decision to run through the light? Do you make a decision to stop safely? I try to teach my students, teens, and adults if you can stop safely in 3 seconds, you should be slowing down safely, building good driving fundamental habits. If this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up. The largest single category for all drivers is a visual search pattern. A visual search pattern is simply looking, increasing your field of vision, looking between cars, looking for lights on the ground, looking to the left, looking to the right. When I teach teens and adults this fundamental, I always want to teach them to look ahead 3 to 5 cars. I want to teach them to look ahead at the traffic lights. Don't tailgate large, big vehicles, which will create a larger blind spot. It's super important that you drive with good speed, good space, and a smile. I always try to teach my students that. Let's talk about identifying possible errors in experience. Going on a downtime drive. If you live in a suburban area, a rural area, going downtown, downtown Detroit, downtown Chicago, downtown New York, Manhattan, the mecca of it all, it's very overwhelming. There's a lot of traffic. Hey, how are you? There's a lot of traffic. There's a lot of people who are driving and not really paying attention to the surroundings. It can be very overwhelming. So you want to do your research first, check your GPS to check to make sure there are no accidents in the areas. And then once you have arrived, hey, I've got to go downtown. I've got to pick up. Yeah, I'm up late, getting going live, giving some information, helping. How are you doing? I want to make sure all students and drivers who are looking at this really get value, right? And if you're getting value, give it a thumbs up. How far reaching is the impact of drivers on crashes? It is at an all-time high. We have a young group of drivers, those drivers who are 15 to 19. We have a next group, 19 to about 25. And then from 25 to about 45, you're good. And then that third biggest group, that's that 55 up. I do appreciate it. It's really important that you practice good fundamentals. Downtown Chicago can be, I've been there before, a lot of traffic. Been there for some skating events. I went to Nike Town, but also driving through that area. It can be very overwhelming. And if you're not really familiar with that volume of people, that heavy traffic, you will get overwhelmed. And it's very easy to get overwhelmed and you just shut down. So we're trying to prevent you from shutting down. Next, what about the impact of the driver or passenger who survives the crash? How would you feel? I would feel sad. I would feel like, wow, because of my mistake, I took someone's life. And then you're going to have to live with that mistake the rest of your life. You need to identify things that are possible setups, possible traps. People driving really fast and aggressive in the downtown area. People driving excessively fast on the expressway, not just 5 or 10 over, but 15 over, 20 over, 25 over, upwards of 85 to 95 miles an hour. And if someone suddenly slams the brakes or a deer runs out or a semi truck tire explodes, you're going to have a multi car collision. So I'm trying to teach you to drive with speed and space and take your time. It takes time, it takes up to 10 years. Listen to me, 10 years to learn how to drive. And you learn daily, not just going to school and going home, but going to school, going to work, coming back home, maybe during rush hour or after rush hour, on the weekend. Maybe you're driving to see a friend in college. Okay, University of Chicago, Central Michigan University, um, Alabama. So it's really important. Yeah, I have to check out. I will be leave some comments for me, and I'll definitely check it out. Leave that for me, and I will look. Leave a link, and I will take a look at it. I'm always a consumer um, YouTube information to get better as an instructor. I always want to get better. I just don't rely on this platform. I rely on multiple platforms. I go to conventions to increase my professional development. It does come natural after about 3 to 5 years. But then people who maybe live in Chicago haven't been out to Kansas. What about those open, flat areas? What about Iowa, where the roads are really high up and there's a 3 to 5 foot ditch? And if you lose control, you're going into the ditch. I've seen some areas like that. I made some content. So if you look up Iowa under some of my stuff, I made some content. Okay. Going out to Texas, very flat, long area, a lot of farms, right? So every driving, Los Angeles, every driving area has disadvantages and disadvantages, okay? Recognizing hazardous situations. It's raining. You're on the expressway in Chicago. People are driving 75 to 85 miles an hour. It just starts to rain. Someone loses control of their car. They're fishtailing left, fishtailing right. What do? Do you slam the brakes? No. Do you try to stay to the left? Do you try to stay to the middle? Do you try to stay to the right? Then you're on survival mode. So driving situations will teach you to become a better driver. Do you know how to change a flat tire? What if your car doesn't start? Okay. What if your windshield wiper blade comes off in the middle of the wintertime? Do you have some basic hand tools in your car? There's so many things that you need to prepare for. Okay. Serious crashes is defined as a fatal crash where someone dies, an injury, okay, possible injury, and more than $1,000 of property damage. We were working on some driving and parking fundamentals. And yes, you always have to have some tools in your car: jumper cables, gloves, a flashlight, a simple toolbox with about $25 or $30 worth of basic wrenches and sockets. You have to be prepared for those situations. What if your battery cable comes loose and your car shuts off and you wiggle it and you see the battery cable's loose, but you don't have any wrenches, you don't have any sockets, you don't have any pliers to simply tighten it up? Okay. What if you don't have your lug wrench and you have a flat tire? I had to change a tire with students and I did a MacGyver. I found a piece of paper, I put it inside my 401 lug wrench, and I slowly turned those lug nuts because the lug wrench I had was too big. Okay. So you got to be prepared for those things. Be that defensive driver. Ask your parents for some tools for Christmas or jumper cable. They'll laugh, but you know what? You need an emergency kit. You need to have a blanket. You need to have some sockets. You need to have some basic hand tools. You need to have some gloves, maybe some type of tarp that you can lay on the ground, some type of portable light that you can look at your tires, see what's going on. Maybe you ran over something and your your water hose is cracked. You can tape it up with some nice solid duct tape to at least get you to the repair center. Okay. I want to continue on with risk awareness. 6% of young drivers will have a fatal crash that will occur on the interstate. Why? They're driving too fast. In the slow lane, people are driving 65 to 75. In the middle lane, people are driving 75 to 85. And in the left lane, 85 and up. You don't have to drive at that speed. And I remember driving through Chicago, they were going 85 just to try to keep up with them. So I'm saying to myself, wow, I'm going about 70, 75. They're going 85 miles an hour. So I decided just to cruise about 70 or 75, stay in the middle lane. And that's very overwhelming for a young driver. Okay. Next, young drivers, 47% of young drivers have fatal crashes on straight roads. You're driving straight, you might fall asleep and go off the road. When I was driving here tonight, I shot some content, had the GoPro on. I was a little tired. I'll be putting that video. I was kind of hugging the left. If you're tired, you need to get off the interstate, rest for a half an hour. So I rested for about a half an hour. I hydrated. I cleaned the car. I was refreshed. I got to my location. Okay. And I'm going to be shooting some content talking about driving on a college campus. There are a lot of signs here. There are a lot of curves. There are a lot of pedestrians. So next, 10% of young driver fatal crashes occur on a curve. Yes, 60, just to keep up. 60, that's slow. 70, you're barely keeping up. You really have to be aware and merging out onto expressway. We saw so many semi trucks tonight, and this was about 8:30 or 9 o'clock. Like you mentioned, I'm up late. I decided, hey, I wanted to talk about this and give you an education. There are a huge number of semi trucks, and don't think I'm against semi trucks. I am not. Okay, I remember one of my friends who was a semi truck driver. We drove from the metro area through the Canadian Bridge up into Buffalo, New York. And that was an incredible experience I'll never forget. We need semi truck drivers because they carry goods that we all need. And semi truck drivers stop, the whole country will shut down. So thank you, semi truck drivers. A 5-hour pre licensing course. There are some refresher courses. That could be a good opportunity for me to create some content. I'm looking to do some public service announcements. Just have to call and find out. I have a couple of friends who are in the road commission, and I just need to talk to them to find out what's going on. If this is bringing you value, give it a thumbs up. Young driver fatal crashes occur at a speed of about 35 miles an hour. That's not fast. Most young driver fatal crashes happen between 3 and 5, right? When I went to the course, just learn how to drive and how to be behind the wheel. Every course is different. For me, every 2 years, I have to take some professional development courses. I have to retake my physical, eye examination. I believe about every 4 years. Well, when you renew your license, you have to go in and do the eye test, and you have to go in and take the test. I think they should increase some of the standards, but that is a political issue. But people are living longer. You know, people are driving into upwards into their 70s and 80s. And as long as you are physically able and you're in good shape, fine. But a lot of people, a lot of families, they struggle. You're going to have to take mom or dad's license because they're having too many accidents. Mom forgot to turn the car off. Dad got lost 3 blocks away, and that's sad, and I've seen that happen before. So 8% of young driver fatal crashes occur on left-hand turns. If you've seen my content, and you should be watching my content, left-hand turns are the most dangerous. I really educate myself and my students. We go up to the middle of the intersection, you look left, you look right, you watch oncoming traffic coming at you, and when there's a gap, a gap is the space. I want to see you make that left turn and accelerate. A lot of students don't go up into the intersection enough and they turn head on and hit a car. A lot of students go out too wide and they hit the left curb. So it's really important that you go halfway up into the intersection when it's clear, you make your left turn. And in my training, I really am blessed that we have not had accidents like that because I really focus on what is the light doing? Is my student mentally ready? Okay, and I see a lot of instructors just pushing students, and I read a lot of comments. So I try to be as thorough as possible, making sure students make 7 to 10 right turns, 7 to 10 left turns, going on curves, um, merging on the expressway, long ramps, short ramps, getting up to speed quickly, getting off the expressway, demonstrating vehicle control, because that's what your road tester is going to look for. You're going to merge on the expressway, mirror, turn signal, blind spot. Then you're going to get off the expressway, and then you're going to be in the neighborhood. So we practice to prepare for that road test. Why are fatal crashes high for young drivers? They're driving very fast. Here in NYC, it's mandatory 5 hours. I like that. That 5 hours is really important, and every state's a little bit different. I like to see in the state I'm from, you got to have 6 hours behind the wheel instruction, state certified instructor, which I am. You have to have 24 hours of class, and then we take the knowledge test. And then for 3 months, you're driving with someone 21 or older. But here's the problem. A lot of your parents, your sister or brother, they don't have the time. And then you don't get your hours. Or because of uh, post COVID, there's a large number of 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds, 19-year-olds, almost 20 who don't want to drive. And that is crazy to me because some of my classes, I have 17-year-olds. Out of 25 students, I may have 9 that are 17. I'm saying, why did you wait so long? Getting a little like, hey, I appreciate you. Thank you. Give it a thumbs up. I really appreciate you. Share it with your friends. I appreciate that. So those of you, it's really important that you get a hold of good driving fundamentals. You learn to drive when you're tired a little bit. You learn to drive at night. You learn to drive in rain. You learn to drive in snow, fog. All these conditions where I am, we have all 4 seasons: spring, summer, winter, and fall. Some of you live in a warm weather climate. So those climates do impact how you drive. In the South, if you have an inch of snow, they're shutting down everything. I live in the North. It takes 7 to 9 inches of snow, super cold temperatures, and then they might consider closing the schools. Okay. We talked about making left-hand turns. Fatal crashes occur at stop signs. Why? People don't stop. They roll through stop signs. And if you roll through a stop sign, and you start doing this subconsciously, when a kid or a car is there, you're going to roll over them and kill them. So work on those fundamentals. It only takes a second. Driving in the neighborhood is the most dangerous area. Why? 25 miles or less away from home, you take off your seatbelt, you don't use your blinker, you're flying through the backside of the neighborhood. There are little kids playing. The neighbor next to me, the little girl 3 or 4 years ago, she was like, I believe she's in probably 5th or 6th grade now. She's getting tall. She's got braids. She used to be riding her little bike down the street. Now she's riding a bigger bike. Hey, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate you. Thank you so much. It's really important that you have balance and you understand your limitations. So let's review. Male drivers are more faster, more aggressive than females. You've got to be on that level 2 about 6 months. That's where you're practicing. And when you turn 16 in the state that I am, you have 50 hours till you're eligible to take your road test. Driving on dry country roads in daylight, a lot of drivers have accidents because country roads are very dangerous. While you have a soft shoulder, you can fall off the edge of the road. There are not many signs. It's extremely dark. Okay. Next, peers or passengers in the back seat. The more passengers you have in the back seat, the more likely you are to be distracted. Distractions present: phone, billboards, girls, guys, nice cars. We're all distracted. Failure to recognize hazardous situations: heavy traffic. You're tired and you're driving in the evening. You haven't been in rush hour traffic in Chicago, Detroit, Manhattan, LA. You don't recognize multi-car crash situations, and in many cases, the passenger is killed. I want to say thank you. If this brought you value, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be going live every day. I will be setting up my podcast within the next week. I have those things set up, and I'm looking forward to having some of you come on. So I want to say thank you. Have a great morning. Give it a thumbs up. Bye, guys.